So hello, welcome back to the Hungaroring. We're here in the Ferrari 488 and we're going to be putting it through its paces, but if like me you've suddenly just been interrupted by your partner who's coming to tell you something that's probably not that important right at the start of a race, and it ends up like this, but believe it or not, we are going to go from very last right to the front of the grid and finish this race in P1. So let's have a look how we're going to achieve that, and let's have a look over this setup. So coming back to the garage, this is right at the start of the race, and I'm hopefully going to do a few more videos like this. It's just easy to film and I can just get everything edited in one go without spending too long trying to edit these videos and put them all together. So just looking over the setup then, obviously we're going to be running a 15-minute session, so you could probably put just 30 litres of fuel in, usually 20 litres per 10-minute sessions. I do apologise, still got a little bit of a cold here, but looking over the tyres, electronics, fuel, mechanical grip and everything, a very similar setup that I've spent a lot of time working on at Monza, that I'm starting to run this at a number of circuits just now, trying to get it prepared for most circuits that I'm coming to, but a few variations, mostly in the aero package, obviously a few differences with the tyre pressures, fuel and stuff like that, but just trying to find a nice balance in the Ferrari that's going to be comfortable to drive at a lot of circuits. I think I've done the Hungaroring now. I think I went to Zolder just after that. I forget where I was just before there, but the car is running really nicely at the minute. I feel really confident positioning the car, good levels of grip. Obviously you can see earlier in the session we did a 144.8 I think to get qualifying. Obviously I'm slightly faster than a lot of the guys on the grid here, which is something that's probably quite common in public lobbies, but obviously when you start looking at league races you're going to start to come across drivers that are a bit more competitive throughout the whole field really. So just starting the race then, and I think my partner's probably just come in now and we're just discussing something in the room. Obviously I'm trying to get ready to start a race, but obviously life goes on behind the scenes, and when normal life comes into the mix it does kind of get in the way a little bit, but obviously just trying to spot my braking point here and just totally get it wrong really. That's all I could say really. Just trying to salvage an incident. Quickly going to start looking through the MFD now on the left hand side. I'm quite confident that I haven't hit anybody, so just looking at the damage, definitely haven't taken any damage, so pretty happy to continue with events really. Just not wanting to get in the way of this guy in the GT4 here, just looking at the track, and I can see he's in a GT4 car, so not really going to want to spend any time tangling with him. He's in a completely different race. We'll just talk through the lap here at Hungaroring, and there are a number of things that you really don't want to do, especially running these curbs. I'd really do try and just get a very little amount of curb run there, because it does seem to bounce the car around. You can be quite aggressive on these curbs and always come in nice and tight through this apex. There's a lot of cars seem to run very wide through there, and it just kills a lot of time really. Again, you really want to be on the inside of that line, so you can just get on the power nice and early and accelerate out. Obviously I've got quite a number of cars to sort of get past here, and they're all having their own little battles, so just be aware. Everyone's not always looking in their rear view mirrors as to where you might be. It's a great idea having the radar option on, as you can see it just come up there, so that I can see cars around me. Trying to pick up the slipstream here from JDM swapped. and I just reached maxed out almost in 5th gear, and I know I need to be hitting my braking zone. It's a very weird braking zone to turn 1. It's not quite on the 100-yard board, and always be prepared to stop for instances like that. And we're just looking in the rear view mirror now. The Audi on the left hand side there, I kind of have to straighten the line because I know he's going to come sailing past. I know where I broke is correct for the corner, so I know he's coming past me if he's out braking, and I've just got to nudge him out the way there. I really think he was trying to push me off the circuit, to be fair. I didn't really have anywhere else to go but just to come back on the circuit. I think I'd given him enough room on the inside of the left-handed turn to allow him not to come into contact with me, so I think for him to push me sort of off the circuit was a little bit unsporting. But we'll carry on with the race. I think we've been pretty fair with coming back on the circuit where we did. Obviously there's two sides to every argument. A huge argument at Monza the other day with two drivers. I guess just having a difference of opinion. We look back at some of these incidents that we have, and it's very weird to apportion blame in some of the instances. They are all racing incidents, and we all race as competitive as we can be. Sometimes we don't particularly see the other side of the coin. But you see here just how much time I gain on the inside. A number of drivers running very wide through the last turn. There's huge amounts of grip on the inside. If you can just be patient to get the power back down and just eke out a lead. Again here, going deep into turn 1 on the left hand side, the guy just runs just far too wide really. All the grip on the inside of the corner, and just being aware of your braking zones. So unfortunately I don't know any of the names of these corners, but definitely don't want to clip that inside curb. Get a little bit as far wide as you can on the right hand side, just as you touch the curb there, braking. Really just take the corner nicely, the Ferrari over the curb there. There was one instance where I clipped the curb on the right hand side coming into that. I do love those little sparks. Really nice little touch. But yeah, I just clipped the curb on the inside, going through that tight left-hander up and over the rise, and it totally disconnected my wheel. It was a very strange feeling. But yeah, back into the game. Really do enjoy Hungaroring. It's almost a bit Zolder-ish really. It's like from one corner to the next, very quick. I think I've spent a lot of evenings racing at Monza, and all this straight line acceleration and corners does get a little bit repetitive at times. It's nice to come to other circuits and just actually enjoy some proper driving. Another guy getting a little bit out of shape there on the last corner, and another guy that's very wide into the last turn. Obviously there's a lot of difference in lap time, seeing 148s, 146s, but I should really be down into the 144s here. Running very much off pace at the minute, and I think he's very nicely left enough room on the inside there for me to sweep up the inside. A little bit of flash of the headlights. But I am noticing a lot more drivers these days mentioning the YouTube channel whilst in lobbies with them, and a pleasure racing any of my subscribers. It really is nice to actually meet a lot of these people as well. Just seeing the Ferrari a little bit out of shape there, just catches the other driver, JDM, a little bit by surprise. I think I've probably covered that line for him. He doesn't actually see the Ferrari till it's a little bit too late, I don't think. But you see, just bouncing over these curves really does unsettle the car, stops the progression of acceleration. So just try and be a bit ginger through there. Obviously I'm looking at lap times of around 1 minute 44, and I think if I think about Monza and setting consistent 149s into the 148s, but I think if I'm into the 144s here, I think in competitive lobbies drivers are probably looking at being into the late 142s, probably 143s more consistently. So for now, considering this is just maybe, I think I ran 2 sessions here at the Hungaroring, just trying to get the car set up. Obviously spending a little bit more time at the circuit, learning the circuit, because generally that's all that's going to make you faster than somebody else, is spending time at the circuit, knowing where you maybe want to carry second gear through a corner, maybe can you carry third gear through that same corner. Just all these little nuances about the circuit, where you can find more grip, turning into each corner, can I carry second gear a little bit longer through this corner, just bouncing on the limiter, maybe dropping down to traction control 8. You can see me running TC9, and I don't run TC1 either. I think I've tried TC, the traction control on 9 and 9, 8 and 8, but it just seems to work perfectly with 9 on its own. See the blue flag driver, I think these are actually P1 and 2, or maybe that Bless Fade just lost it, and this is Guizmot. I think it was Guizmot. I'm not sure whether he was actually a blue flag driver, but I'm sure this is P1 just up ahead, although it does have me in, oh yeah, we finally changed there to P1, P2. So from the carnage that was turn 1, we finally reached the last guy that we need to overtake to get into P1. And I think as we come across the line, obviously I think he's going to be close to a 145, or maybe a 146 for him. Oh, 147.5. I was glad I swapped over. Something that really does, really is useful to see that leaderboard as you cross the line, to know what the sort of drivers around you are setting lap time wise, especially for these blue flag drivers or people that might be a little bit slower. If you look at the lap times as you come across the line, you can kind of gauge who you're racing against. Do or die around the outside here. Certainly 2 cars into this corner doesn't work, and I'd have probably ended up sending him off wide. So I think knowing that he's setting a 147.5 and I'm hoping to be setting 144s, I don't think it's going to be long before I can find a nice place to overtake without endangering either of our laps, and we can both enjoy the rest of the race. It is nice to know when you've got that much sort of pace over your competition. I guess it's going to be an easy victory. But I really did enjoy the other night's racing on the XCL server at Donington, racing with guys that are, I'd probably say, very similar on lap time, as much as I don't particularly spend enough time in one car to get comfortable with it. Obviously, just for the sake of the channel, I jump around a lot between cars, which probably is a little bit to my detriment really. I don't get to fully appreciate knowing one car completely really, and it will benefit you as a driver just to be in that one car all the time. You will really learn the limits of that car far better than jumping from one car to another. So obviously plenty of room up here on the inside. Remembering your braking points, just get a little bit of a tap at the rear. I do notice him quite a lot in my rear view mirror, and I think if I wasn't on the accelerator in a number of places, I'd have probably had another tap just here. It's very close. So the rear view mirror, definitely a little bit better than it used to be, and the game is definitely running at its best by a long shot at the moment. A lot of people asking about the state of the game at the minute, and it is so stable, to be honest, at the moment. I don't think I've had one crash since the patch update that came just after Christmas, or just before Christmas, I forget which. Obviously we've got a new community manager at the moment that seems to be quite prevalent in the Discord channel. If I do forget his name, I will put it up somewhere, but he is answering a lot of questions at the minute. I have asked the question with regards to the special events, which he did mention he would put to the team that are doing the development of the game. So hopefully in the not too distant future we'll see special events back in the game. It's nice to see, not something I particularly use a lot as well at the moment, but the driver swap I have heard from many people is working absolutely perfectly. Obviously I think it's something that's inputted if you are part of a league that does do driver swaps and you are swapping drivers midway through a race. All of this is done through G Portal, I think, and the other, I forget the name of the other lobby configuration tool. For the one for the wrong word there probably, but I've heard driver swaps working perfectly at the minute. So I'll try and come on board, I think, for the last lap. I think I probably put my best lap in at my last lap. And I think Zolder was recently just trying to push so much to get into the 128s at Zolder. I'm sure there's guys in the 127s, but this setup was working nicely at Zolder as well. I'd have liked to have seen a little bit lower in the 144s during the session. Obviously as we go into the night time, I think it's about 26 Celsius nighttime temperatures. Obviously we've got, as the sessions developed, the temperatures have dropped. The tyre pressures aren't particularly at their best at the moment. Obviously you can see we're only just into the 27s. Would have liked a little bit more tyre pressure, but as you can see we're getting into the sort of mild 144s. Would have nice to have been a 144.3 maybe. So we'll come on board for this one lap. As much as we've been on board, I'll try and talk you through the one lap here at Hungaroring. So obviously accelerating down to turn 1. Just as we reach the top end of 5th gear, braking just before that 100-yard board, keeping the car nice and tucked in so we can get early on the power. Sometimes drop to TC1, then back to TC9. Looking to the curb on the right hand side, just braking as we hit that curb. Down to turn 1, just blipping the throttle a little bit, starts to bring the nose in slightly, and then staying on the power here through the next turn. Just looking for that curb again on the right hand side as we approach this sort of off camber turn in. Running a little bit more of that curb on the inside, back on the power, swing the car wide. Down to second gear, early on the power, braking again at the curb on the left hand side there, down to first gear. Probably some guys using second gear through there, but I think it just unsettles the car too much. I don't really know how much of that curb that we can cut. Nice and eager on the power as we come out of there, keeping the car nice on the left hand side, just a drop down to third gear, back on the power nice and early. And then again looking for these curbs, so just on the left hand side again, braking down to first gear, on the power at the apex, accelerating out. And then it's very hard to spot a braking zone at the minute for this last sort of hairpin. So just as a sort of max out in second gear, could have probably done with a slightly longer second gear really. So crossing the line for a 144.5. Fastest lap on the last lap of the race. So pretty consistent, I think. Nice to have had a couple of laps where I could really see what the car was capable of. And then I've just recorded the highlights of the race. One of the things that does annoy me a little bit about the highlights is how particularly random they are. Some of the action really doesn't get captured. But just coming towards the end of that, and I'll always have a look into the lap times just to see what sort of lap times I've been hitting. Obviously you can see there's a fair bit of traffic through some of those, but we'll cut to the replay. And would be nice if you could choose a section in here to stay with your own vehicle or cycle through all the other cars. Obviously you can see there very strange happening, just locking up the front tyres there. Don't know whether that would flat spot them a little bit, but as we come out and look from the overhead camera view, it does look like a slightly clipped the BMW, but obviously it picks up a little bit of damage from someone else, and then there's a whole plethora of other guys having their little incidents at the back of the grid. A lot of carnage through the first corners really, but very typical of an online lobby, I think. Coming down to the next turn then, the Ferrari getting a little bit out of shape there, or yes, it's the McLaren, a little bit out of shape. And then obviously I think there's just the one GT4 car driver obviously struggling with no traction control, probably no ABS even, very much in his own race. But a lot of these online lobbies, I do tend to just drop into them and just run, even during the race I'll run sort of a setup throughout the race and just try and stay clear of any of the action. It just allows you to, I think setting the car up actually in an online lobby is a far better option than setting it up away from in a private session. It just gives you a little bit more understanding of track conditions that you're finding online, and if you can find a lobby that's open all afternoon doing one race, it's a good place I think to set a car up. But yeah, going back to the state of the game, very much in its best state at the moment. Obviously I can't talk for those guys that are on PS5, but currently on Xbox, on the Series X, it's running really nicely. No real issues, frame stuttering or anything. I have heard from other drivers that are on Series X that are running different wheels. Maybe they've had a few issues with frame stuttering, but it really isn't something that's plaguing me at all with the Fanatec equipment. Yeah, the state of the game is pretty good, 1.8, 0.7.3. The car's feeling pretty stable. Just really enjoying the online racing. Unfortunately I'll be away for another stint working offshore for the next couple of weeks. It would have been nice to have taken part in some further races on the XCL servers. I think looking towards Imola this week in the cup races, I would like to see how well I fare in a cup race, even in the M2 cup car as well. That would be interesting to try. So hopefully when I'm back in a number of weeks I'll be looking at doing some more races on the XCL. But the guys there are doing a fantastic job, I think, running all the servers. A lot of guys starting to use the rating system. I think that could be a real sort of game changer for us guys that don't particularly belong to leagues. Just enjoying doing one race a week maybe, and if you're not able to do that, you're not really committed to a league at all. Really enjoy the concept. The sky looking absolutely amazing there as the sun's starting to set here at the Hungaroring. Really do enjoy these replays and just watching them back. Obviously I think now we're able to save, I think it's maybe 6 or 7 laps in the replay section, so a couple of advances there within the replay saving function. Not sure how many replays you can still save. I think that'll still be limited to a certain number. But yeah, really enjoying the game just now. Obviously I've cycled through the camera view to try and just keep with my own car for this replay, but I would like that to be an option. Obviously you can see the overtake details in the top right hand corner there aren't really relevant. I'll probably just move the camera a little bit off capture so that we've not got those details in the top right corner. But yeah, if you're enjoying watching this type of video where I sort of divulge my setup at the start of an online race and then just run the car, show my lap times at the end, if you're interested in watching these videos with me just narrating over. I know it's been a long time since I've done like a setup video, but I tend to start looking online to what's out there really as regards to YouTube content and sim racing, and it really is starting to be saturated with guys putting out very similar content. I know we're always interested in what our favourite YouTubers are up to, but just trying to bring content to the channel that people enjoy watching. Obviously these slightly longer videos, but at least you get to see just the sort of lap times that I'm running to try and pick up wins in the online lobbies, and whether these setups are actually useful to yourselves in your own leagues as well. If you did enjoy some of the flight simulator footage at the start of these, but just trying to limit some of the editing time, I think, to make these videos a little bit shorter and life a little bit easier for myself. But yeah, coming towards the end of this lap, do love the glowing red hot discs, and just as they start to change as you've stopped using the brakes. Definitely spending a little bit more time editing my cars as well, just getting that sort of RGB type lighting around the windows and in the grills and everything. Really enjoying these little highlights. Anyway, thanks for watching guys. As always, ciao for now.